Rayman 3 is a game originally released on the PS2, the GameCube, the Xbox, and Windows in 2003. It's the third game in the franchise with a lot of changes from the first two entries. The first game was a 2D platformer, and the second game had a lot more of a darker tone to it, with a different setting almost entirely. Rayman 3 returned to the lighter tone of the original, but still being a 3D platformer like the second game. Rayman 3 has the best and most developed combat system out of the three, as in the first one the player would throw a boomerang-like fist that deals damage to the enemy, and in the second game you throw energy balls at your opponents out of your hand. And in 3 you're back to throwing your fist, but in 3 there is a lock-on and dodge feature that develops the combat and makes it more skill-based than the previous two games. When locking onto enemies, you can also curve punches. This is needed for some tasks like hitting the switches behind cover, or defeating certain enemies. In this game, you gain a lot of your abilities right off the bat. The only abilities you do discover throughout the game are contained within 5 cans, granting temporary abilities. The red one gives Rayman a strong punch and the ability to break through wooden walls. The blue one is this game's equivalent to a purple lum from Rayman 2, as it grants you 2 metal claws to swing from floating hooks in the sky, and it allows you to electrocute enemies. The green one grants a tornado fist, which can shrink enemies, knock them off stilts, and lower certain platforms. An orange one, which grants a guided missile used to shoot through small gaps to trigger switches or hit something for Rayman to progress. And a yellow one, which grants a helicopter hat for a few seconds to gain some extra height that you can glide down from or land on a higher platform. Another thing that isn't a can is a shoe power-up, shrinking Rayman down to drive in one of his shoes, like a car. Your objective here is to crash into your other shoe. Doing so a few times will return you to Rayman, allowing you to progress. All of these temporary abilities have different timers and times you can use them. Blue being the longest you can use it for, and yellow being the shortest. They usually show up after clearing a horde of enemies or after saving a trapped teensy. Trapped teensies are hidden throughout the levels. When you release them, they either give you something required to progress, or give you gems to add to your score. When you collect 6 of them, they increase your health bar by a small amount, but you tend to find 6 fairly regularly, so it keeps up with the game's ramping combat difficulty and amounts of enemies. Rayman 3 was the first game in the franchise to incorporate a points system into the game. When you collect gems or defeat enemies, you gain points that add to your total, and if you gain lots of points within a short amount of time, you gain a combo score. If you don't get points in time and the combo runs out, whatever that combo score was, it gets added to your total. At the end of each checkpoint, you get a completion percentage based on your score in that level. The incentive of collecting those points are bonus levels in game, none of which are very good. Although I didn't end up unlocking all of them, from what I've heard, none of them are that special, although having cool ideas and concepts, like taking control of a hoodlum. A lot of people say that Rayman 3 is too combat focused and the game could have really used more platforming. I disagree, as there is a fair amount of platforming in each level, as well as one of the 9 levels solely being about platforming. I think the game has enough platforming and a nice balance between that and the enjoyable combat system that the game has to offer. The story of Rayman 3 in the beginning is about getting Andre, the black lum, out of Glowbox's stomach. As in the first level, Glowbox ate Andre accidentally, while Andre was going for the heart of the world to multiply. Andre is a black lum who was originally a red lum who turned evil. He started to infect other red lums with his sort of virus and grew an army of hoodlums. Rayman and Glowbox go to a few different doctors and none of them individually can help them, but eventually they work together and get Andre out. Andre proceeds to escape. He then seeks help from an enemy that Rayman defeated prior to Andre escaping. They team up to beat Rayman. The final boss fight isn't all too difficult, and the only bit of trouble I had was on the helicopter platforming section, as I fell off and got electrocuted and I couldn't glide down to safety. That's not a big deal though. Overall, it wasn't too difficult, and it was quite an enjoyable final boss that felt rewarding once you completed it. The game wasn't too long either. I finished the game in just over 7 hours, but the whole game was filled with fun and enjoyment. I don't think there was a single part where I was frustrated or wasn't just having that much fun with the game in general. I think one of the only downsides I had was that I was playing on a PC, and for the life of me I could not connect a controller to it. Although I did get some comfortable keybinds, the movement wasn't as precise as it would have been playing on a controller. That is a little annoying, but overall it's okay. I think everyone who enjoys platforming games, if they haven't already played Rayman 3, owes it to themselves to do so. You can purchase the game from Good Old Games for about $2, as there is a sale on currently, so there is no reason not to play it. There is a link below to download the game if you so wish.